All right, here we go. Oh my God, I'm out of practice.
You can do it.
All right.
One and done. We got this thing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome finally again to another episode, number 4 of Projectile Dysfunction. I'm co-host number 1, Space Viking, Duck Salesman, Cael Voltek, and on my left is co-host number 2,
The
Centurion Pilot,
universe's
Centurion
best.
Centurion Pilot, and
Okay.
part-time dildo, Bigga Moon Pie.
Wow.
I've
I
been
just,
I've been waiting all week for that.
I just wait in the drawer and I make the women happy. That's what I do. I don't even have to work
Fantastic.
that hard.
I like it.
I don't interrupt them when they're trying to read. I'm just there when they need me. I was going to say the best tail gunner, dorsal fin tail gunner in the verse,
Yeah,
but
yeah, but you're usually piloting.
like the,
Usually
the
piloting. You're buddy.
14th
You're buddy number
pass.
1. I'm buddy number 2. So I had to jump in.
Cheers,
So
buddy. It's
yeah,
good to be
cheers.
back.
Yes, and so a little vacation time. We had some vacation. You're on vacation. I was on vacation. The real world got in the way with the job. Have to, Mama needs a new pair of shoes. So we had to work,
Yep. Got it
but
back to work.
we're
This
back at it.
background is from a very wet hike I took on said vacation.
A
So,
very wet hike.
oh, it was
Nice.
pouring, man. It was wet. It's muddy.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right into it
Let's
with
go.
a couple of items here. Again, focusing on Star Citizen. Those that have played and those that haven't, maybe looking into it a little bit. So the big news, if you were one of the tens of people that watched the first few episodes, we talked about, kind of the upcoming patch, 323, big patch. I had mentioned at some point that I thought not necessarily a make or break patch, but I think it had carried a lot of weight with it. I think they're at a point in the development of this game that they run a big risk of losing a lot of people. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been following a lot of socials, playing the game quite a bit, and I don't know. I think your core fan base is still there. I'd love some numbers to find out how many new players they're getting in and what the retention is like, but we can only guess. So, but that being said,
Well, I know that they got 4 brand new players this last Father's Day because I had to open
and
the wallet and buy all my kids an account. But
all right, we'll get
I'll
there.
tell you about that later. Lots of
Okay,
fun,
check.
actually. So
Oh,
much fun. Like, I'll
foreshadow.
do it again. It's so great.
Upcoming later
Yeah.
on. Stay tuned. Uh, um, but my big concern was, like I said, they're packing so much in, and they broke it out. Kind of a recap here. They broke it out, and they dropped 323. So we're going to start on a little bit of a positive note. Positive note. What they got right, in our opinion. Um, I'll start, and then I'm going to toss it to you, Becca.
Okay.
I think.
Is this your number one, your top
No,
thing that the
I
number
can't.
one they got right? So you're just
I
going, okay,
can't. I can't rate it. I can't rate it
rolling
that
it.
way.
Okay.
I do like master modes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the gameplay, as far as what it's supposed to achieve, I think they're there. We both have talked quite a bit about time to kill can be a little bit crippling, especially when you're used to going with a lighter aircraft
Oh,
and
yeah.
taking care of business. You can go in and pound on a larger ship all day long, and you're not going to get through it.
Yeah. I
So
think it definitely turned my when I'm running the bounty hunter missions just totally on its head. Like what ship am I going to take? What guns are going to put on it? Like fully changed the strategy, or like I log in for just a fun play session is totally different than the previous patch.
yeah, you definitely have to kind of think about what you're going to take into the bounty missions.
And actually, I think even the AI changes have been better. So when the servers really kick in, like the turret gunners are, man, they're on point for the AI, and they really are working better,
Right.
I think, than in the previous patch as well, when they're
Well,
working.
yeah. So on that point, so we're going to kind of flip. Maybe we'll flip back and forth here about a good and a bad, because on that point, so I've done a lot of bounty missions, and I have not seen what you're talking about the good AI.
Okay.
Either they're hanging out, and maybe my missions are too low. Maybe I'm not playing an aggressive enough mission, but a lot of the enemies kind of hang there. They tend to want to face you and slide. I'm gonna say it again. I want traditional dogfighting. I think that again, this is PvE. It's gonna be tough to make the NPCs uh, a tougher fight, but I think they can do it. I played a lot of flight sim stuff, a lot of combat sim, and they were able to do it back then. I think they should be able to do it now. Make these guys fight a little better. They can flip around and turn and fight, when they get the distance, but they will literally just hang there with their nose pointed at you, and it's just a
Yeah.
slugfest.
Yeah. It's a turning that you could not even be moving and just kind of turning.
It's not even a turning
And
battle; it's a
yeah,
rotating battle, and
it's a
I
rotating
don't
battle.
find that battle. I don't find it fun.
And uh, yeah, I agree. And I was thinking it's actually so I just had Father's Day and my kids came over and one of their friends came over and so we had five and my kids are older, they're 20s, and we're all playing. And one thing they want to play was War Thunder. So we played War Thunder, Dark and Darker, and we played Star Citizen at
Mhm.
the end. And I was really thinking we played mostly tanks in War Thunder, but War Thunder has a lot of great uh, you know, World War II airplane combat simulator. And I was really kind of applying that to the difference between that and Star Citizen. I get to Star Citizen's a space game. But one thing when I was thinking about this problem of like you're in space and you're kind of rotating, man, I think, and this is kind of complicates things, but if they had a different flight model, kind of like DU had a different flight model for when you're in atmosphere versus when you're in space, and some ships like the the Vanguard series has wings, they might perform a lot better in atmosphere and fly a little bit more like a War Thunder style realistic battle.
Mhm.
But then when you're in space, they need to come up with a combat model that is fun. That's not just guys are floating in space and they're kind of playing the range game. But that's does that break immersion too? Because would you have to dogfight like you're in atmosphere? Like what is the a fun space type combat ship model? Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of another game that has a fun space type combat ship model that doesn't have to do with a clone of a atmospheric based flight simulator.
Yeah, I personally gonna think you're finding the more successful space games cheated and did a more atmospheric model. Um, Maybe it's just because what we're used to. I'm not sure, but I find it more exciting to do it that way. I want to see a longer fight. That's my personal opinion. Just that I could literally sit there. Maybe I'll have another impression between now and the next episode. I'm going to do a lot more bounty hunting, get my rep up, do some of the bigger fights, and then we'll see if they get better. Because I think a turning fight is way more fun, and a flight or a follow
Yeah.
fight is way more fun than just kind of sitting there and pivoting on
But
the Z.
yeah, that said, I think I'm having more fun in this patch
Yeah.
than in the previous patches.
Yep.
And I think it is because time to kill is a little bit higher. And so a lot of times you were just like, it was very easy to even advance your rep all the way to the final bounty hunting missions. And then even those, there are certain ships you could just like the Inferno, you just walk through
Right.
them. And so even killing a hammerhead or something like
Right.
that.
So
So this is definitely more difficult. And I think it's like we said with buddy ships, it makes it more you know, uh, important to maybe bring out a fully crewed Constellation or a fully crewed um, Corsair. You know,
right.
and that helps you kind of cut through those ships that are performing better, and then I kind of feel like, and they're kind of always changing it with, especially with the shield balances, because some like distortion now the shield's taken out 90% of the distortion damage and it's taken out some of your projectile damage, and then the projectile gets through and then the natural quote unquote armor of the ship kind of takes it out. So I think that the weapon, what they got right about weapons was changing the speeds. So I think all the
Yep.
different speeds for all the different weapons is so much fun. And then you can kind of look at it and be like, well, I'm going to put pair of these ballistics with these lasers, and they have relatively the same speed. And I think that that's there's because I have like now it goes up to like 5,000 is the top
Right.
ballistic, and then it goes down to even lower than 750, which we had.
Right.
And
Okay.
so that part is great.
Okay, so back up just a second. So we spent a lot of time on a negative. Let's go back to a positive. Talking about how they set again with master modes and the fighting is that you have either everything's they took off the reductions on the gimbals, right? So it's the sizing is the same, and you can go into gimbaled mode and you get half the fire rate,
Yep.
right? But it's supposed to be on target or you don't. So I think that that again is a positive way of enforcing, especially for newer players. And we'll come back around to this a bit, but the new player experience, I think it's nicer to have that gimbling system. I don't use it, but I think it's nice. And so they talk about weapon speed too. So now you're matching up weapons because it can be very difficult with different speed weapons being fired at the same time and getting the double pip and trying to line those up.
Yep.
Uh, and it's going to become important in the future with the engineering updates that you can target and fire upon certain systems. I had a fight the other day against, um, I think it might have been a raft, and I went in and there were three explosions because I took three systems out before I finally took him out. And I took out must have took out an engine or some sort of
Yeah.
navigation system because
Yeah.
he couldn't fly anymore and he just kind of hovered there for hovered around trying to fire on me. So I think that's really good.
That is good. Yep. Mhm.
So you
And I
like
think that
that?
kind of goes into the modular stuff that they're building, and kind of making the components of the ships have more meaning. And oh yeah, you can see where they're going, and I think
Okay.
it's going to be
Okay.
fun.
I think another really positive piece. I've done two, so I'm going to have you do one. I'm going to change my mind. So
Okay.
you give me something that you find really
Oh,
positive.
my
Yeah.
number one for the patch is EVA. It's
Okay.
so great. It is
Yep.
so
Good point.
great. Like they nailed it. I like the 890 jump mission, which I actually got to do with the kids. I'm like, oh, we're going. Let's do it. And they just, dude, they just all were messing around with each other like they like to do, and jumping out of the ship and in and out, and it was just seamless. There was none of this really like crashing and rolling on the ground of the ship. Uh, it was great. So I
Yeah.
think that's the best improvement that we've seen in this patch is the EVA. It just works. It's fun. Uh, it, I would say that's my number one.
Yeah, and along with that, the, boarding and offboarding from a ship. It used to be
Yeah,
so sketchy when you left the
yeah.
ship, the transition between out of ship and in ship was fraught with danger, and now I don't know how many times I've come in, and I come in a little hot or whatever, but I come in and I just transition into a standing onto the deck and way better.
Oh, so
Not
good.
nearly as
Yeah.
frustrating.
Mhm.
Yep. Alright, so I'm gonna toss you another one. What other do you like? What else do you like?
Well, like the star map obviously is a
Mhm.
lot better. Like I think we haven't gotten to play a whole lot, but the one time we did play, you're like, just type it in, and I was like, oh yeah, look at
Yep,
that, and oh man, like I didn't even remember what the old star map looks like. I can't even
yep,
remember it. The
yep.
new one's so much better. I think that is probably number two. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
star map.
huge step up. Not it has some frustrating moments, but they're easily worked around, way more so than the other one. It's you don't even think about it now. You need to go somewhere, you
Yep.
just go,
Yep.
and it's way better that way. So I agree with you on that.
And some of the buddy stuff too, like getting into warp together, seeing where your buddies are at. I
Warp,
don't
yep,
think I think every time we played together, I've seen your pips. It hasn't been the time where like, oh man, I don't know where you're at. I
yep,
can't see you.
yeah,
So it's working better too.
yep. I
So
played.
maybe that's a replication layer. We can almost put that on
I was
as part of the patch.
yeah, I was with our buddy Space Cat, and he was I was we he I was having him do the quantum the positioning and jumping, and it worked flawlessly. So that was working really well that time we played. Um, I think another really positive piece is I like the I didn't read anything about it, but I noticed it is the visual updates. I think visually, uh, okay, here's my good and my bad. I think like you look at the stations and the
Oh yeah,
clouds
I
and
know
the
what you're talking about. Yeah,
planets. I think
the rendering.
it pops a little
Yeah,
more. I like the way that it looks. Um, the
I
downside
agree.
is that
I think you can see landing zones in cities a little better now.
yeah,
Like,
they put the landing light at Area
yep.
18, which makes
Mhm.
finding
Yeah,
it a heck of a lot
absolutely.
easier.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
complain quite a bit, again. playing so many flight simulators and just real world, why you get rid of things from the real world for a
Did you
space
see?
game.
This is a dumb question. You probably don't know the answer, but do you know why? And did you see how a bunch of people were parking Herculeses all over Area 18 on the deck there? Did you ever see that?
Well,
And I was like, something's
during
going on.
during Invictus week, right? They were all parked
Well,
off to the
maybe it
side
was.
there.
Yeah, it was during
That's when I
Invictus.
saw it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know the reason.
Okay. I didn't know if anybody was talking about it. It's funny.
Oh,
I'm like, that is a lot of sea. That's a
yeah, that
lot
was
of
a
Hercules.
there was a lot of ships when you were coming in to go to
But
Invictus
that was
week.
kind of a testament too to the replication layer a little bit because there was so much rendered in front of you, and I felt like my frames rate and like coming into land, like even with all maybe there was 12, 13 of those ships everywhere, didn't really slow too much down.
Yeah,
So
I
those are
haven't
working good.
yeah, I haven't had any issues. I would say that my when I was looking at their app for showing, where your system rates, yes, I'm in the top quadrant area a little bit, not the very top. I'm probably 3/4 the way up. But I don't get
Well,
yeah,
okay.
well, but I'm just saying that I don't see there's a lot of complaints people talk about. They go, "I have high-end system and I'm getting such terrible frame rates when I go into New Babbage," or I never get it. I never get it. So,
I had
I don't know.
trouble walking around the like when Invictus was going like walking around the showrooms. I had a little bit of, like it was a little freezy, a little bit laggy. But then I was doing that on my laptop too because that all happened while I was working. Because I had to come back from vacation and then work for like 12, 13 days straight. So I don't know if it was maybe my laptop wasn't crunching it, but
Yeah,
it was a little bit slower.
I don't know how much of that is, um, your hardware or server, because
Yeah.
the server lag is definitely a thing when you're looking at the way that it's updating, right? Server authoritative, it causes a lot of uh, weird stuff to happen and lag that way. So maybe it's some of that. I'm
Or
not
and I
sure.
have bad internet when I'm at work too, so it could be just the internet. It's like I wasn't trying to play. I just kind of wanted to walk around it. This is my first trip around the sun. This is my first orbit. So this is my first Invictus, and I was like, well, I gotta go check this out.
Yeah,
And it really was cool. Like I think that like if you think about just that concept, like we played Eve for years and years and years, and I don't know if there was a showcase like that ever where you could kind
yeah,
of really go and it was only parts once a year kind of thing. I know there were lots of events in Eve, but I just thought it was cool. It was
yeah,
fun. It's
yeah.
fun to see
So
the ground vehicles and stuff because you don't really look at those that much, and you kind of walk through and see the tanks, and you're like, oh, look, these are like, and they work just as hard on the ground vehicles as they have on the spaceships.
right,
So
you're segueing into Invictus Week, which was the next topic that we had.
sure.
Um,
Well, have you hit everything? Did you have anything else that you liked
mm,
about 323? Like good highlights? I love, you know what else I love? I would add is that the new Moby Glass mission organization.
well,
Like
I
it's
think
so
the
much
Moby
easier
Glass
to
90% of
get
the Moby
a
Glass update is way
yeah,
better.
yeah.
Contracts, maps,
Contracts are so much easier to like, what do I have? What did I have?
yeah.
Where do I need to go?
Yeah, I noticed
Um,
that the landing, they call it landing now for when doing your, refit and refuel, system, is that you don't have I don't know if you noticed this or not, but you don't have to stay in your chair. You can start it and
oh,
then leave, and it'll
okay.
continue on. So that's kinda nice. You don't have to sit there
Well,
and wait for it to fill
I
up.
noticed that it's working a lot better too. Because sometimes you land and you're like, oh, I can't like it wouldn't register you landed or something like that. And I haven't had that problem at all. Like
Yeah,
every time I open it up to rearm and repair, it has worked. And even
yeah.
at like
I had
the mining outposts and stuff like that.
I hate to burst your bubble.
So
It happened to me once.
did it happen? Okay, well,
But,
I mean, it was landing just right.
and maybe I wasn't on the pad right or something, but yeah, so that was kinda nice. So I think that the Moby Glass rework, um, is great.
Yep,
All the stuff they've done
yep.
to it makes that experience a lot better. Oh, what I didn't get back to was the part that I missed is that I was gonna say that a downside that we were talking about with the star map and the visuals and the pop of the graphics and stuff like that. The thing I don't like is I find the HUD to be way too busy now.
Well,
There's way too
and
much
when
stuff
you're
on
in
the HUD
quantum,
anytime. Like if I'm
okay.
going into fight or I'm going to do something, I would much rather have it give me the thing that I'm going to, and then a line, right? So I have the point, a line, and the label. They put all the labels right in the front, so you've got all this labeling and all these pieces right in the front of you. I find it a little bit too cluttered. nitpicky, but that's what
Yep.
it's a little bit annoying. You can't see stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and if I'm trying to think of negatives, like as far as master mode goes, I just think that they like very nitpicky stuff like the Sentaki Eye, which now you can fly for free. I don't know. I don't know if Alien Week's over. Probably by the time people are watching this is gonna be over for sure. But you put the gear down, and the thing just drops.
yeah.
Like it's just all that. It's like no, there's no thrust anymore. I'm like, well, I don't know if I don't
Well,
remember it doing that. So I
yes.
think that's kind of but I love the aspect of putting gear down and it slows you down. Like I have not crashed into the side of a hangar wall at all. You know, it's like gear down, slow, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And I new player experience, and then watching my kids play for the first time, I'm like, oh, the gear for new people is one of the best things about master modes. I think that was a win.
Yeah. So I would say that a complaint I have then is cruise control. So,
I haven't even figured it out. Like I didn't even know how to
well,
use it yet.
that's
And I
got to
had
be
to
a
map
negative
something.
then,
I'm like,
right?
where did it go? I don't.
I
Yeah, I don't.
So, with the old one, what was really nice is you could go into cruise control and you would go
Yeah,
around, but as soon as you touched the WASDs, right? As soon as you touch the keys, it's like a current cruise control. You hit the brake, right? It turns it off.
cuts it
So
off. Yep.
if you moved, it turned it off. It doesn't do that anymore. So you have to learn how
You
to
can turn it on. I haven't even figured out how to turn it on yet. Because didn't
alt
it change the
alt
keybind?
alt C.
Okay. Oh, all right. I need to try it.
Okay. So and then
And my old keybind is not working. Is the only reason that I
yeah,
never
you have to
changed it.
change that. So then mouse wheel sets your min and max, but then it doesn't where the old one is it always went to max. So as you did your scroll wheel, it would stay on your max. Now it'll just sit there until you hit W, and then you can go to percentage of max as well. So it's really not cruise control. I, in a way, it'll stay where it's at, but then you have to Alt C out. Now, where the problem with that is, it's Alt C, right?
Right.
So if you're ripping around, this is just uh, a. I'm not saying this actually happened.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
you're ripping through a station. You come in a little hot, and you're in cruise control, and because you were in nav quantum,
Mhm.
and you come out and you kind of rip in, and you're going, okay, this is good, and you go to do Alt C, but for some reason you are not slowing down because you might have missed the Alt and hit C, which is the hotkey for coupled.
Oh, okay.
So I
Okay.
became uncoupled, so I wouldn't stop, and I came ripping through a station. Oh, I'm sorry. I hypothetically came ripping
Okay.
through a station and pulled the nose up like a plane. Now it becomes like air atmospheric flight because I pull the nose up and I gas it trying to get away from the station, and I hypothetically clipped the
Hit that
station.
space break. You know what? The Pisces has no freaking brakes, dude.
Why'd you think I
Like
was playing the Pisces?
I'm not saying. I just like
Oh,
on top of that, I was just thinking like I've been noticing some difference in the ships now, and I'm like I'm coming in a little hot, and I'm like
yeah.
holding this boost to space brake. I'm like this ship is not slowing down like
So
the
if you
Hawk would, you know, like the Pisces is just it's a
and
brick.
I haven't flown all the ships,
Well, and
but
neither have I.
if you
Neither
want one, that space break is an afterthought, it's the Venture.
have
Oh, I'm
I.
sorry, the Vulture.
The vulture, the venture vulture.
The Venture Vulture.
Wait, does that mean it breaks well or it doesn't break at all?
Absolutely terrible.
Okay.
Because it'll
Okay.
go
As
really
any
fast to your
industrial ship
target.
should.
Yeah, it rips really good to get to the belt, but you need to start you break early, break often because you will fly past everything. It's a lesson in never flying directly at your target.
You guys were having fun. That yeah. I
Yeah.
actually was thinking, I was watching you guys play when I couldn't play at work. I was watching over Discord and I'm like, maybe I need to buy a vulture. Maybe a venture vulture needs to get in the hangar. But I never did. I did think about it, but
Yeah. It's all right. It was a good moneymaker.
uh, I do not have any money.
Right. All right. So real quick here, the last bullet point for the 323 stuff
Uh-huh.
uh, was the bug. I want to get your opinion on. We had the duping bug.
Mm,
And they said now there's been some complaints and some kind of back and forth about when they knew about it, and everything I've seen is they picked up on it pretty quick. They knew about it pretty quick. It did take them a while to get a patch out for it. I would have liked to have seen them patch it faster. But when they did patch it, They also banned around 600 accounts
Right. Hmm.
for duping and taken, it's like it's not a perma ban, it's like a 4-month ban, and they took all the, money that they gained away from it.
Right.
Thoughts on banning
Well,
because of the
so and then
duping?
I heard that they well, just on thoughts on banning peripherally, like at this stage, because we're gonna wipe, we got 3.2, and then we got 4.0, and then we got all like the economy doesn't really matter a little bit. So a money dupe like that, when they keep wiping, to kind of
But they don't,
reiterate their
whoops, sorry, but they don't wipe credits.
they did not. Yeah, they didn't wipe money in the last one. But I think that there's so many changes coming down the pipe that does it hurt the overall game. I don't necessarily think it does that much. But the thing I do like is that they're taking it now seriously. Like, hey, this is our game.
Right?
So if you're going to mess around with a known exploit, then you're going to get a temporary ban, which is really like a slap on the wrist. And I know that like in a game where you spend $4,000,
Hmm,
how can you get permanently banned? Like that's a lot different than a game where you're spending $15 a month, right? So that's an interesting question, and I certainly don't think that guys that were sitting there selling their cargo twice or is really that big of a deal when we're going to wipe, we're going to
right.
wipe.
So, but okay.
What do you
A
think?
counterpoint to that is I agree with you in that my position's changed a little bit on it. At first I was hell yeah, and then I've
Hell
kind
yeah,
of
ban them.
yeah, and then I
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
I softened up a little bit, um, because again, the state of the game, it didn't have that much of an impact. People, the big drive right now is just being space rich anyway. Um, but I agree with you in that I think it was a way to uh exert a little bit of authority saying, "Listen, we can see this. We can when there's problems like this, we have a way to figure out who's doing it, and there will be repercussions in the future."
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe
Well, and I
that's what it
think
was.
like it it really comes down to what I think is bannable is stuff that's linked to real money trading. So was anybody actually making a bunch of in-game credits to then sell for real money
Yeah.
on one of these other websites? I don't really think that happened. But if
There's
this
no
was
way of
the
knowing.
actual 1.0, they have the potential to do that. So they're kind of like saying, like, you know, it's stepping on real money trading
Yeah.
problems,
Right.
like the griefing, like if you remember the Daymar rally bans, I felt really I could have gone either way on that, because I feel like some guys like piracy type disruption gameplay, and the game mechanics allows for that, and they weren't really, you know, exploiting anything. But then again, you have like a third party come in and set up a race, and people want to legitimately race, and they should have an environment where they do that. So that's
Yeah,
way
and
more
that's
complicated.
yeah, that's I mean,
But I
that's a
think,
and I think that's a little bit of a PR thing too, right? Like this
oh,
game is,
absolutely,
a
yeah,
game or any game, not just this game, but any game benefits from
yeah.
having
But so
interesting
I guess
content being created. So,
I feel like if it smells like real money trading could be happening, then bans are fine.
yeah,
Do it,
yeah.
you know, because that's when start like in World of Warcraft and all these other like gold duping stuff, and you get your kind of your bots from Asia, and like that's when it's really is get them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tarkov
Well,
too had a lot of problem with real money trading stuff, and I think
I
it's
think
not part of the game.
yeah, I think ultimately you can be on both sides of it. I don't know if it's going to have any great impact in the future. I do see it as kind of a little bit of a drawing a line in the sand,
Yeah, which
you
is
know,
good.
because you had a ton of people. That's the last point I'm going to make. You had a ton of people on the other side saying, "Well, if the game allows it, then it shouldn't be bannable." And that's again, it's the same. It's the argument that I have, or the argument I make when having discussions with people about the spirit and the letter, right? So, yes, you're able to do it. It doesn't mean it's right to do it. And even in games, like if you know that it's an exploit, like that that's not the way it's supposed to
Yeah,
happen and it's reported, then taking advantage of it. there's some repercussions that are going to come with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Was it hurting other people's gameplay experience though?
no,
Eh,
not
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 really.
not for that
You
sort of
know,
thing.
like an
No,
exploit that is like your shields are bugged and you can just kill anybody. Like,
yeah,
well, what's
a
that's
little
worse.
different, a little different.
But if we had a solid economy and this wasn't, yeah. Which actually, so I don't want to tangent on you, but we talk about controversy, and we didn't write this down on the notes. But I want to. Can I ask you about one controversy that did happen?
Yeah,
And if you have an opinion on it, maybe you haven't heard it. Like,
I.
did you
Well, it's rare because I don't have opinion on a lot of things.
had you heard how they canceled the second gala for CitizenCon?
I did,
Where
I did
they're
not.
going to have a private tour of the studio, and then was the tickets were a bit more expensive, and they kind of sold out, and then they canceled that,
Canceled
gave
it.
everybody a refund.
Well, at least they refunded.
Well, they did. Well, yeah, yeah. All
I
right, you
mean,
don't have an opinion
I
on that.
mean,
You don't want to
no,
speculate on,
I
on
don't. I don't
anything.
have opinion on it. I would probably have a bigger issue if they canceled it and said, "But we're keeping the money, but we're going to do
No,
something a little
it
different."
wasn't anything like that. No.
No, no, but I'm saying, we're going to do something a little different, right? But it's not going to be what it was advertised. But if they go, "Yeah, we're going to cancel that second one. It's not going to work out. We'll refund you the difference." Great.
Would you want the two cent? Do you want the 2 cents conspiracy on it or not?
Yeah. Oh,
So the two
absolutely. Why
cent
not?
conspiracy is that there's a good side and a bad side, and the bad side is that
Right.
that's where they were planning to announce the launch of Squadron 42 with a date,
Uh-huh.
and then they decided they're not ready, so they canceled it. That's the bad side. The good side is that's where they were going to decide to launch Squadron 42 with a date, and then they decided that it was too limited access, and they're going to just roll all the celebrities that were going there into the main CitizenCon.
I
So those
don't.
are the two sides.
I
I don't
think
know if I
those
have an
are.
opinion or not.
I don't think I have an opinion on that. I think it's still going to be some time before we see a Squadron 42 release. It would be great if they announced it. I'm just not, man. I'm just not a type of person that's going to get super upset about it. We've waited this long. I'm just not going to get upset about it. And you have to, like with most companies in general, but we're talking about gaming. So game companies, every time they do a release, you have to parse what they're saying to try to figure out what they might mean by it. Everybody does it. It's like when they made the announcement that Squadron 42 is feature complete. So the release is imminent, and I'm going, it's feature complete. That doesn't mean anything. That means we're not going to quote unquote add any extra stuff to it, but they could have all of the assets to do. They could have all of. I mean, they're doing re-recordings. If you look at the
Yeah.
releases, they're re-recording dialogue. They're adding new missions. They're tweaking missions. They're tweaking motion capture. And I'm like, okay, great. So it's not imminent. It could come as soon as next week.
I doubt it.
Well, as soon as.
Oh,
So I mean, yeah, I'm not sure, but the conspiracy stuff. I can't. I'm not. I'm not gonna to burn myself out on that part of it.
I'm still hovering over the click to buy you CitizenCon tickets. So as soon as you commit to going to Manchester, we're
Are there still tickets available?
clicking. Yeah, yeah, for CitizenCon there.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll
I
talk
mean, I'm
later
pretty
about that.
sure.
We'll talk later about that. Would we do a live broadcast from CitizenCon
Oh, wouldn't that? Yeah, yeah. We
with
could
our
like
with
that.
our with our phones?
Hmm. Hmm.
We'll do TikTok videos. Okay. So
Moving on. Moving on.
moving on. Let's talk a little bit really quick
About how much money you spent.
about Invictus
Allegedly.
about it about
Allegedly.
Invictus Week.
Let's
So
talk
did
about that.
so you
Did I have a
said
question
you
for you?
you said first time around the sun,
Yes.
right? This is our first Invictus Week.
Hmm.
What did you think of the entire experience? You kind of talked
Oh,
about it. You're kind of happy.
I think I
Give
kind of
me a.
talked about it. I thought it was cool. I'm like, this is
I like the way
cool.
they did it.
Because it's funny because you kind of like take those trams by like all those galas in the city, and you're like, well, what is it's just like not done like what? And then you're like, oh, this is what it's
Yeah.
for. Like they have a whole thing,
As a person
and
that's done way too many
yeah,
conventions, I mean it was a classic convention style. I thought it was kind of cool the way they did it.
yep,
It's a
yep.
neat
And like I
promotional
like seeing
piece.
some of the ground vehicles you don't think
Yeah.
about. I like seeing
Mhm.
just being able to walk around and kind of mess around with them. And then I liked a lot of the free flies. Like, did you? The question I was going to ask is, did you participate in any of the free fly stuff? Did you take anything out that you hadn't seen or flown?
It hit right as I was heading out, heading out of town, so I missed most of it. I got to I think I saw the first 3 days, so I can't remember I'd have to look it up. I can't remember the first 2, manufacturers, so I wandered around the first 2. I went up the only thing I really wanted to see that's kinda pathetic. The only thing I really wanted to see was the Ursa Med,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
ground vehicle
okay.
with the medical beds and the Ursa, because I think that's kind of a if in a perfect world, I think missions where you fly in and then deploy ground vehicles for the assault into into the approach of a station or a building would be a lot of fun. So I was kinda interested by the ground vehicle.
It's
The
cool.
other the other ships I wasn't
Yeah, it's
the other ships I wasn't,
no. Okay.
like, "Ooh, ah." There was
Yeah.
no ship, gonna go on record, there was no ship that they talked about that I was like, "Ooh, I gotta have it."
Right. Right. Well, I think we're mostly settled on the stuff that we've got. One thing that I think I was going to talk about is that I went back to the Connie just because of the laser cannon changes, and like so the stock Connie, dude, it just like crushes. You know, the laser cannons, they got sped up a little bit. They're easy to hit.
Yeah.
I think the smaller weapons are a little bit frustrating, so you get the bigger punch out of the fives. You know, and so yeah, yeah. I kind of
Speaking
melted some stuff, went back to Connie, and then I melted it, went to that pack with the just to also see the Ursa medevac
Oh.
with the Aquila or Aquila or
Oh,
the
so you did trade out and ended up with some new stuff.
but
Okay.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I didn't spend. I think I spent an extra $100 maybe because
Wow.
well, that was an Alien Week. I went and bought something
Well, you did get out
Alien,
you did just come off vacation, so you can't
right?
just be throwing
Yeah,
money
no, the
around.
credit card is definitely
You got bills
smoking
to
hot
pay.
right now. I need to.
So, uh,
But I think solidly the best Connie is the Constellation.
yeah,
Like the
really, you
Andromeda,
think so?
because I didn't take that out. I took when I was playing with the kids we took out the Corsair just because there was an extra. I needed another seat, and so I didn't want to stick anybody in the sensor dome of the nicer Constellation. So I'm like, oh man, maybe the just stock Connie with the two turrets in the fighter is when you're really buddy shipping is kind of the way to go. But
Uh,
um,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
all right. So,
But incidentally, too, in the Corsair, the Ursa rover fits perfectly. Like it takes up the entire
well,
bay. It
it,
fits right in there. It's so ridiculous.
it's
It's
funny
fun.
because they announced that with the Ursa medevac, there was a lot of conversations about which ship will it fit in, and they're like, "Will it fit in this one?" They're like, yes, but you gotta kind of snug it in there a little bit." So,
Well,
I
better
think,
than because I also checked the pulse out, and
yeah,
the pulse is kind of hard to fit and stuff. Like it's always hovering straight through a roof, and like it's a little jank. It's fun the way all the like they designed it so well with the when you like go to get the shields and stuff out of it, but driving it onto a vehicle is a little wonky.
okay. So with the announcements, with the ship announcements and stuff like that, there wasn't anything that stuck out to you. Did you like anything that you saw? Not that you bought, but anything that you saw that you thought was you're like, yeah, this is gonna be I kind of like this.
Well, what did we see that was new, right? So we've
Saber,
got the Ironclad and the Firebird.
right?
I definitely would say more
This
excited about the Ironclad than the Firebird.
we'll talk about the Firebird real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the design of those ships, the sabers, they look cool. Like they do
Yeah.
look really cool.
Yep.
The the kind of the how the the Nvidia package that's a little bit weird, I think. And then obviously I missed the boat on that. So I wonder if they'd ever Nvidia come out with another card and put that package out again.
Right.
And so I think they're kind of chasing their tail on that a little bit to be like, well, here's another saber, here's another saber. And functionally, I don't think I'd ever need a Firebird, like a Firebird or a Saber. I don't think it has enough guns on it to be a fighter, really. I like the stealth idea of it. In the whole, like, they launched it and then they were like, oh well, we'll double the missiles, oh we'll double the stealth, was a little bit weird too, I think, to maybe kind of bump the sales of it.
How do
It
you
does look cool.
how do you double the stealth?
They I think they upped it from 20% to 40%. Maybe I could be wrong with
I
that, but
can't see it, and now
I
you can't
still
see it
can't see it.
twice.
Yeah, which does make it, because then it can shoot missiles at you. You can't even target it, so that's
Right.
kind of a cool idea. And I like the idea of it can shoot a bunch of missiles at a time,
Yeah.
but not enough to buy it.
Okay.
No,
So
I
what
think
about the
that,
ironclad?
oh, it's totally different, right? Uh, how many things did they get right on that? Like, holy, if it comes out the way that it looks like it comes out, like, makes the Liberator look like, well, maybe, and I've been all about the Liberator. I own a Liberator. I'm like, oh, when's it coming? I'm like, well, but that ironclad, the door's open. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I
Um,
I think the
and the cargo was like 1,000, 1,500, like,
yeah, it's got
way
good
more than a
it's got
C2.
it's got good cargo space. I like the idea of the top loading, right? You can open it up, so if you have for fast access in, tractor beaming on the one side, and plus the front open still, it's a classic Drake vehicle.
Right?
I was
Yeah.
not, and I'm going to admit right now, I was not. I'm a uh, uh, Crusader. I like the look of the Crusader. It's probably I tell everybody it's the it's the Star Trek nerd in me because it has just the way they did all the white paneling and the color scheme of it. It looks like the Rebel ships in the
Mhm.
70s for Star Wars. I think that's my attraction to it. But looking at some of the Drake vehicles and stopping for a moment and looking at just the kind of the rawness of the Drake with all the Drake designs with everything's exposed, kind of
Yeah.
just that
And the
industrial
levers,
gritty. Yeah, I like it.
yeah.
So the Drake, yeah, or the sorry, the Ironclad. So that part of it, and then the idea that you have a if they can actually get there, the capsule, the command capsule
Yeah,
comes
yeah. It's got
off,
a little,
and
the
it's
escape pod, like,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's
Oh, yeah.
interchangeable. It's supposed to be interchangeable with the Caterpillar
Mhm,
and the
mhm.
Ironclad. So you could actually detach, leave one, attach to the other ship, fly it, and then whatever that stuff. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Will it become the next Merchant Man? Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. It's never coming out.
I don't know. We're gonna find
But
out, aren't we?
yeah. What was your opinion? So where did you lie? I know maybe, or allegedly, you might have gotten one or you didn't. But where were you on the Ironclad versus the Ironclad Assault? Did you have a big? Was it hard to make a decision between those two? Was it easy?
No, I just personally, the assault versions. Um, I think I need to have more game meat before I can make a decision on it.
Right.
I'll take the plain versions on a lot of the ships. I'll take the plain version over the assault versions or the war versions the Hercules.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Excuse me, a C2, a straight up
C2's
C2
probably
Hercules
better. Yeah.
is really good. I get the bombing version is really cool and stuff, but it's like I don't with the gameplay right now, there's just no reason to have one.
Right. Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
get to territory conquest or you get to, something like that where bombing something is going to be super important, then great. From a pricing perspective, it's insane. I don't understand,
Right. Yeah.
400, I think it's 400 for the Herc and 7 for the C2 and 750 for the not the M is it the M2 or
Yeah.
the A2?
Mhm. One of
I'm
the
just like,
2. The
yeah, I'm
M2
like,
is like the
yeah, the
troops
bomber.
in the,
Yeah, the bomber. I'm like,
yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm out.
Yeah.
I haven't bought
We've had a
I
lot of fun in
and I
the
love Crusader, but
Crusader,
I have not bought a Crusader. I don't think I own any money Crusaders
right?
as much
Something
as I
fun
like them.
to grind, something fun to grind, buy-in game,
Yeah,
you know? Well, you guys ground and bought a Karrakin game too, so, you guys,
yeah. Old Space-O did.
right?
Yeah.
It's gotta do something with all that salvage money, you know?
We'll get there. We're gonna do a, as we're gonna do a test here on the Cuddy Red
Mhm.
soon. So we'll do that.
That'd be great.
Yep.
I think
And
it's the FPS stuff is working a lot better too.
yeah,
I die a lot more on those 890 jump missions. Those guys are just shooting straighter.
yeah, yeah. It's been hit and miss, but I've seen a positive
And
uptick
took the
in it.
Stormtrooper AI out. Can they put some actual, you know,
Yeah, exactly. All right, so real quick, last piece here. You kept talking about it.
yeah, yeah.
You had some fellers,
Father's Day gaming
Father's Day
experience,
gaming.
dude. It honestly, it was so cool. It was so much fun. Like, and it was their idea. Like my oldest son was like, "Hey, Pop, what are you doing for Father's Day? Let's have a LAN party." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, let's have a LAN party. This sounds great, you know." And I'm like, so I told him, I'm like, "You pick the games, pick 3 games we're gonna play." And like I said, it's War Thunder, Dark and Darker, and Star Citizen. Dude, they're like tanks and War Thunder, like with your kids and one of their buddies and stuff, like that's fun. You're all yelling at each other. Dark and Dark is ridiculous and fun. I don't know if you played. It's kind of like a medieval Tarkov a little bit. My youngest, he liked that better, I think. And then dude, Star Citizen. So they all wanted to play. They were all excited. I'm like, oh, I'll get you guys all packages, And so I'm like, we had this like, we go with the Aurora or the Mustang, Dad. Oh, or what do we do? So uh, I think that I got like an Aurora Mustang, and then I got
Right. So
one kid that was going to play the most. I got him the Sulian because it was on sale for Alien Week.
right.
We
So
didn't touch any of those ships.
so just talk a little bit about their first time playing, and they came in. What was there confusion? Did they have problems with certain aspects of the game?
They all got through the tutorial fine. My oldest crashed the Pisces into the station and had to redo the tutorial. But everybody did that fine, and they didn't all do it at the same time because we kind of took time downloading. Like one guy had it downloaded first, and so he kind of ran the tutorial, and then it was kind of stages of the LAN party. But then when I just was like, look, everybody needs a handheld tractor beam. Get yourself a handheld tractor beam. So they're all running around trying to figure that out. And they did need a lot of hand holding. And like, okay, you got to go there. Here's how the elevators work. This is that. But then we all kind of got located on a station, and I just loaded in, like I said, I loaded in the Corsair. And like the Corsair is so cool. Like they're just running around checking it out, like pulling the levers, like, oh my gosh, the elevators open up. Like, this is crazy. They're like picking who's going to sit in which seat. And so then we took it off and we went out and did some bounty hunting missions, and they're all shooting stuff. And like, actually, that's the first time that all the lasers on the Corsair were going, like the co-pilot turret, the 2 side turrets, and then we shot these, there's a Hercules, we shot it down, and then, it crashed on the planet, but I like dropped them off and be like, we got to get the cargo. So they're running around, tractor beaming cargo around, and like, they loved it. Like, and everything was working. Like the server was working fine. Everything there were no hiccups like that. One of the PCs crashed, and then he rebooted and actually came right back into the turret that he was sitting in. So that was kind of interesting. But as far as that go, with like the hand of like, hey, this is what you need to do. Hey, walking them through like, well, how do I look at my journal? I'm like, oh, you got to hit one of the F keys. Well, it's fun, dude. And they loved it. And they're still playing it. They're texting me like, hey, when are we going to play Star Citizen again? We got to come back and we got to check this out, And
so overall,
dude, it's great.
Overall, a positive experience for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As you think, if you went where like you took them miniature golfing, you took them like go-kart racing or something, it'd be just as expensive as buying them all $45 game packs. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think
and then I had I got like 5 more ads on my recruitment. I don't know if I got anything cool or not. I'm like, oh, Badgers, great.
You better.
But it was cool. Yeah, and I don't know. I think it'd be hard. It's so complicated. The game is so complicated. Like even just getting into quantum, kind of figuring the flight mechanics out without somebody like, hey, hit B. Okay, now hold B, or hold your left mouse click.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to have somebody who knows what they're doing just telling you what to do. But even so we did the 890 jump mission, and like 2 of them died, and we're dragging people around and putting them on the bed in the 890 jump, and then one of the kids got in the the ship that's on there and flew it away. And he's like, I want to keep this. Is this mine? I'm like, no, it's, he's like, no, I'm going to park it. It's mine. I'm like, well, you got to buy it in game, I guess. It's something
Right.
to work for.
Little repo action.
But even that, like the AI was like pretty crisp. Like everybody's getting shot hard, and it was cool. It just
Right.
worked good.
Well, good.
So that was fun. It was a good
I'm
Father's
sorry.
Day.
I'm sorry that I missed it. That'd have been a good time.
Right?
Yep.
Because we could have rounded out and tried that. The engineering, like 5 guys on engineering.
Yeah.
Someday we'll do.
Someday we'll do it. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up a little bit for this episode.
Yeah, we'll try to be more consistent, guys.
Let's more consistent. I think we talked a little bit about buddy shipping. I know that
definitely
Big and I are going to work on kind of a side series on buddy ships. I think it's an important. We both think it's an important element of this game, buddy ship. And there's several times when I'm flying by myself and I think to myself, man, if you had a guy in the turret or you had a guy doing this, that doing stuff together would be great. I know that with the current economy, we need some power to fly into some areas to pick up commodities because everybody's squatting on the pickup points. So there's some good action that we can pick up, and we'll try to do some of that.
On visual updates, they fixed the glass in the.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In
our favorite buddy turret.
Well, good. You don't have the rain glass, the shower door rain glass
looks
turret
great
anymore. That's great. I'm glad they fixed that vendor issue they were having. So, all right. So, end of episode 4. Really appreciate everybody that watches us, and we're gonna get back on track here. It's a good discussion. Please, if you have any questions, post them down below. I know we've been a little bit absent in the comments. We'll try to get better at that. But we really enjoy doing this, and we hope that we see you guys around. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah, baby.
Cheers.
Appreciate you. Yep. Cheers.